Hello and welcome to Life Changing Tuition's Summer School 3 booklet. So today we'll be going through an explanation of how to solve each question. So let's begin with VR hidden word and find the 3-letter word. So here we have to find the 4-letter word hidden in the sentence. So you're given a sentence and a 4-letter word is hidden inside, and all you have to do is find it and write it down. So question 1. The aging lady climbs out of the carriage. So this one is going to be glad, in between aging and lady. So we then just write down our answer, glad. Okay, next. I am a keen swimmer, but I prefer tennis. So this will be make, in between am, a, keen. So we just write down make. Next, have a chocolate if you'd like one. So this one will be each, in between have a chocolate. So each. Okay. Next, my t-shirt had a long rip down the back. This one will be grip, in between long and rip. So grip. So the key to finding the answer with these questions is to just look through each of the options that it could be. You need to look at every set of the 4 letters. So say we start from the beginning. It'll be mighty, like it can't be that. Or like whitish, it can't be that. And you just keep looking. And you got to remember, like, the word will always cross over more than one word. So in this case, it is grip. So next, you have all members of the club train daily. So this one is going to be soft. So soft is in between members of the. So SOFT. Okay, number 6. Do not act as if you know nothing about this. So with this one, it will be. This one will be. This one will be. Tact. So tact, this word means what? Tact is like when you're like very understanding, or like when you consider something. So you're very tact with something, or like you're in a sentence you could use it as like he spoke with tact and understandingness, or like a good consideration. So like he spoke with tact. So it's a fairly rare word, but this is where your vocabulary will link with your VR. So next is going to be question 7. We know renegotiation is the only option. So this one is going to be ren. So this is another fairly rare word. It's rarely used in just general speech, but ren is like a bird as well. So that is our hidden word in here. So ren. Next is question 8. Do you want to stop or try going on? So this one is going to be port, between stop or try. So port. And 9. The lost wolf will howl so that it can find its pack. So this one is going to be owls. So between howl, so we have owls. And it's just, this is a very repetitive process when you're trying to find the answer. But you really are just skimming through each sentence, trying to find a set of 4 letters next to each other that makes a word. So next is going to be 10. Are you going to address the letter? So this is going to be toad in between to and address. So toad. Okay, 11. The detective injured his leg after chasing the thief. So the detective injures his leg after chasing the thief. This is going to be vein. Vein in between detective and injured. Okay, the next sentence is bacon usually tastes better when it is dry cured. Okay, so bacon tastes better when it is dry cured. Okay. This is going to be onus. So onus is another very rare word, and it basically means like your responsibility, like your responsibility, or like it might sometimes be used as like something that's a burden on you, but yeah, it's your onus. Next, one of the best flu remedies is ginger and garlic. So this one will be lure. So a lure is something you use, you might use it as, like a lure might be your bait.
Question 14. So after a long walk, he went enthusiastically to the bed. So look between the gaps, see if you can find anything. And there we go. I see 10, but we're looking for a 4-letter word, so it's tent right here. This is between went and enthusiastically, which is option C. Question 15. Again, always look through the gaps until you spot something. Camp right there. Question 16. Again, looking at these gaps. And then if, for example, I found it right here, fire. If, for example, you can't find the answer, what you can do is start looking at it a bit more systematically. Look at like 2 and 2. Does that work? Or maybe 1 and 3, like that. So you take 1 letter from the left, 3 letters from the right, a bit like that. But I prefer just looking in that general area and scanning through, and you should be able to find something quickly. So you need to train your eyes to look first like this, the 3 letters from the left, 1 from the right, then 2, 2, and then 1, 3, and you should find there's nothing there. So we keep looking, and there we go, we got star right here. So we choose that option, and dark immediately spotted out to me. Actually, another thing that is going to be a really good option for you to speed things up is actually just go straight to the options. So you can see right here, path. Okay, just don't look at the text, just look at between the options. Because there's a few less there, and it'll save some time. So pack, and then you've got I'm looking at these again. Map. There you go. Saw. So imagine like a sore thumb. Final few here. Looking at the options again. There you go. You found bear. Okay. So look at option A. Is there anything there? No. B. I don't see anything there. C. I don't see anything. And then D. So now this is the first time where I've looked through all the options and I couldn't find anything. That means I have to do a bit more systematic search this time. So I'm looking again very carefully this time, and there's nothing here for sure. With this one, Achu, Chut, or Hut O, that doesn't seem to work. And then Wast, Asth, doesn't work. Aced, Asset, Xeto, and Eto doesn't work. So now I spotted something here quickly. It says hut. Alright, so you want to double check, does it allow 3-letter words? Okay, and you can see right here, hidden 4-letter word, or containing a hidden 3-letter word. So if, for example, in this option, obviously there is only 3 letters, right? And this word, and you get the word hut. Okay, so be careful to also look at the instructions. It will tell you. Sometimes it will be just 3 letters, sometimes it will be just 4, maybe sometimes it will give you the option for either or. Okay, question 24. Once again looking at the options, and I found moss. Okay, and question 25 again, looking at the options. Heppo isn't a word. Tree, right there. So this is all about sort of training your eye, and using those techniques, like looking at the options first, looking more carefully if you don't find anything the first time through, etc.
To catch an animal or something of that kind. Okay, now we are looking at inserting the missing three-letter word. So between at and dd, you might have end. So you need to make sure that it's a word that's going into your current letters. So for the vase was pritless, and you can see they put it into context for you. So this one will be ice, so priceless. So we'll write the answer as ice, which is ICE. And then the model broke because it was not very something. So remember, it needs to be a three-letter word. This will be bus, so not very robust. So something robust is something that's often durable. And then the champion boxer remained unbeaten in this. So it is going to be unbeaten. So BEATEN. And then we add in our 8. Okay, I opened the door to the recise of my aunt. This will be residence of my aunt. So to find your answer with these, you often have to just repetitively, try and fill the gap with something. So like you could look at re something size, but in this obviously it's residence, and you have to think of words that would make sense in that place, and it's just combining all of that knowledge of vocabulary. And this is why it's important to know your vocabulary. Like the better you know it, the easier you can answer VR and English questions too. So the naughty boy was punished. So like with this, we can see that the answer is likely to be severely. So that is our answer, and it'll be severely with E. So severely. So can you age to eat anymore? Okay. So this will be manage. So can you manage to eat anymore? The playground had a swing on a sea. Okay, so this is going to be playground and a slide. Also, lid. It'll be lid. So just cross that out. Playground and a slide. Okay, I had to write a long essay. This will probably be, essay for my coursework. The priest lit a dill. Okay, this is probably candle for peace. Yep, candle. So candle. Okay, use the jug for ping water. So this will be pouring water. So you add hour. And then the sning, top world, round and round. So this is the spinning top. So the answer is going to be pin. So the spinning top, pin. Next, we decorated the Christmas tree with lights and tinsel. So you add tin. And remember, it's always a three-letter word that is an actual word as well. So this is really testing your problem solving and how you think about answering these questions. But the process of these really is about it does often feel like trial and error. So question 13, the bridge was covered in graffiti, and this is going to be graffiti. So FIT, so graffiti. Next, it was a well-trodden path, so this will be a well-trodden path, so odd. And then ties was important to her. this one, you could do tidiness. Then din. Okay, din. Din means like. Din is like a loud noise. Okay, yeah. This will be tidiness. And a din is, yeah, like a loud noise. Like, you know, you're making a din. So it's something very loud, often maybe disturbing. So I was so sunburned that my skin started to ping. Well, this will be peeling. So the answer is ill. And then Michael opted to go to Art Cole instead of university. So this will be college. So L-E-G. So college. And then the vowels deface the building. Vandals. So the vandals deface the building.
So once again with these questions you have to first figure out what is this word going to be, and then you can figure out what the answer is going to be. So if the pirate followed the map and found the buried something, I can think of gold mine. Okay, so old is the word that you have to put into here. This one is very simple. Immediately when you see import, it looks very much like it should say important. It is very important to listen to your teacher. What a something drawing you have made, so wonderful. This maths problem is a difficult something. So again, this word looks a bit like challenge. So think about, what do I have to add to make the challenge? So you can see right in here, if you split this up and you put CH and then you put ALL and then ENG. So I put the word all into here and I made the word challenge. Okay, a carrot is my favorite type of what? Again, this looks like a word that is similar to vegetable. So think about, what do I have to add to make it into vegetable? So VE, if I put GET into here, vegetable. Okay. So you can write out if you need, so you can see get is what we added in right here. The knight showed great something on his quest. Again, you have to think about, what is this word? To me it seems like courage. And if you put RAG right around here, after the U, RAGE, that makes courage. And it says something outside is very cold today, so this is probably weather. And then if you put EAT into here, you'll get weather. Okay. So you can see some of these have different sort of formats. One shows you a gap, some of them don't show you a gap, like this one. It makes it a bit more difficult. You have to figure out, where do I put it in the gap? But both types of questions could potentially come up in the exam, so make sure you're comfortable with both of them. Okay.
Numbers add up to 20. So what we're saying here is that the two numbers are they're both factors of 91, and they are also then they add to 20. Okay, so how we're going to do this is, well, it's generally like trial and error, but we need to go through numbers that multiply to give 91. So first we can start with 91 divided by 1, so 1 and 91, but we know that that will not be the answer because they don't add up to 20, so we can cross that out. 91 isn't divisible by 2, but is 91 divisible by 3? No. 91 divided by 4? No. 91 divided by 5? No. 91 divided by 6? No. But then 91 is divisible by 7, and that gives the factors of 7 and 13. And do these add up to 20? Yes. So the answer to the question will be 7 and 13. So this is simply like testing your knowledge of identifying factors of a number, which is generally like a trial and error method when there's numbers that aren't in your usual times tables. So that's the answer, 7 and 13. Next, use the numbers from the list below to answer each question. Write down a multiple of 9. Well, the multiple of 9 will be 45. And then the factor of 24, so the factor of 24 would be 12, because 12 divided by 2 So I'll just write that this like 9 times 5. 24 divided by 12. And then write down a prime number. So our prime number, well, you could put 17. You could also put 23. And yeah, that's it. But you just have to put 1 for your answer. And then we have to write down a square number. So the square number will be 49. So 49 is 7 squared. So 7 squared, which is equal to 7 times 7. And that's 49. Okay, 3a. From the list below, circle all numbers that are a factor of 36. Okay, so we're going to go from left to right, or we'll go down actually. So 36, so 36 divided by 1 is 36. 36 divided by 5, no. 7, no. 36 divided by 9 is 4. 36 divided by 3 is 12. 11, no. 25, no. 10, no. 2, yes. 2 times by 18 is 36. 36 is a factor of 36 because 36 divided by 36 is 1. 6 because 36 divided by 6 is 6. 4 because 36 divided by 4 is 9. 12 because 36 divided by 12 is 3. And 18 because 36 divided by 18 is 2. And 30, no. 8, no. So that is the answer. Okay, and then we have to write down the factors of 20. So how we do this is we simply go through each number. So 1, yes, 20 divided by 1 is 20, so we can write down both of those. 2, yes, 2 and 10. 3, no. 4, yes, and therefore 5. And then because we've reached that point where 4 and 5 are, as close as you can get, they're consecutive numbers, that will be our answer. So 1, 20, 2, 10, 4, and 5 are the factors of 20. So what is the biggest number that divides into 12, 24, and 42? So what we're doing here is because it's asking for the biggest number that divides into these. So what we're looking at is 12, 24, and 42. Okay. Okay, so greatest number that divides into 12, 24, and 42. So what we're looking for here is going to be its highest common factor. Okay, so what we're looking at is, we got to write down all of the factors of 12 and basically see whether they will divide into 42 and 24. So with 12, we know that 24 is divisible by 12 because that's 2. But 42 divided by 12 is, 3.5, so it would not work. So after that, you have 6. So we write down 6 because 12 divided by 6 is 2. 24 divided by 6 is 4. 42, divided by 6 is 7. So the answer will be 6. Next, write down prime numbers between 10 and 20. And this is simply like knowledge of prime numbers. So 10, no. 11, yep. 12, no. 13, yes. 14, no. 15, no. 16, no. 17, yes. 18, no. 19, yes. Next, write down the first 3 multiples of 15. So this is just 15. So 15 times 1, 15 times 2, 15 times 3. Or you're adding 15 each time. Next, you're writing down the factors of 49. So next, so we are looking at, well, there'll be 1 and 49. And then after that, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, but then 7, because 49 divided by 7 is 7. 7 squared, so 7. 1, 49, and 7. Okay, so next we are looking at, so look at the numbers in this cloud and write down all numbers that are multiples of 3. Okay, so all numbers that are multiples of 3 are, well, 30, 18, because 3 times 6 is 18, and 9, because, 9, because 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, prime numbers. So there is 5, 23, 11, and 7. Okay, factors of 45. Well, in here that'll be 5 and 9. And that's it. Okay. 7. What is the smallest possible number that can be divided exactly by 2, 3, 4, 6, and 8 without a remainder? Okay, so here we are looking at, well, smallest possible number that can be divided by these numbers. So it can be divided by 3 without a remainder. Okay, so what we are going to be doing here is, well, okay, yeah, we're trying to find the lowest common multiple. So the lowest common multiple of these, well, how we're going to find it is first by writing the multiples of 8. So 8, well, that's not going to be the lowest common multiple. 16, 16, no, because 6, 24. Yes, 24 divided by 2 is 12, 24 divided by 3 is 8, 24 divided by 4 is 6, 24 divided by 6 is 4, and 24 divided by 8 is 3. So the answer is 24. Next is question 8. 3 bus services stop at any stop at my bus stop. Service A departs every 3 minutes, service B 5, C is 8. If all 3 leave at 10 a.m, what is the next time they will leave my stop together? So we need to find the lowest common multiple of 3, 5, and 8. So the lowest common multiple of 3, 5, and 8, how we're going to find this is by writing down all of the multiples of 8 that will then end in 5 or 0 because of the 5, and then from there we can then see if they will divide by 3. So it won't be 8, then it's 16, 24, after that is 32, 40, 48, 56, 64, and we'll just repeat this. So 64, and then just moving on, like what the whole process is then going to move on. So okay, 64, and then 72, 80. So now we can see if 80 divided by 5, does it divide by 3? No. So then 88, 96, and then you just keep repeating the process. 104, 112, 120. So this ends in 0, so it's divisible by 5. 120 divided by 3 will give us 40. So we can say that our answer will be 120 minutes plus the 10 a.m. So that's adding 2 hours, so it will be 12 p.m. 12 p.m. Okay, Arjun gets his haircut every 2 weeks, and Yaya gets his haircut every 10 days. They both get their haircut on the same day, so how long until this happens again? So we're finding the lowest common multiple of 14 days and 10 days. So what we can look at is, well, there'll be 140, but then also 14 multiplied by 5 is 70. So the answer is 70 because that's the lowest common multiple, LCM, of 14 and 10. So you can say that 10 times 7 is 70 and 14 times 5 is 70. Okay, calculate the highest common factor and lowest common multiple of 120 and 72. So how we're going to find the highest common factor is going to be by just writing out the factors. So the factors of 72 first, well there's 1, 72, and we can test 72 so by doing 120 divided by 72, but that will not give a whole number. Then there's also, 72 divided by 2 is equal to 36, so 2 and 36. And then we can test 36, so 120 divided by 36 is not a whole number. 72 divided by 3 is equal to 24, so 3 and 24. 24, and then we can test 24. So that'll be 5. So 24 will be the highest common factor. And then it's the lowest common multiple. So this one we just write out the multiples. So we can write down the multiples of 72 and 120. Well, there's 120, which is not divisible by 72. 240, which also isn't. But 360, 360 over 72, because we're testing the lowest common multiple. 360 over 72 is going to be 5. So the answer will be 360. Next, reflection. Okay, so here we're reflecting in the y-axis. Seems to be the case for most questions. Okay, so if we are reflecting this shape, well, this will be option A here. If we're reflecting the shape, it's going to give us an answer of A. Yeah, A will be the answer because we're looking at the direction of the stripes, which is reflected, and then the positioning. So and also the shape. So the answer will be A. Next, question 2. This one, if it's reflected, this is all about imagining how this will change. So it will change from an L shape this way to an L shape this way. So we can cross out A and E, or it's about looking at each component. So this will give us an answer of B. Next, we can expect the arrow to be pointing towards the right. So we can cross out A and D. So the answer will be E. And then, okay. This one would expect it to be the same because okay, so we're going to assume that this one's asking us to reflect in the x-axis. If that is the case, then the answer would then be D. But that's the only, because there's no option for if it was reflected. Okay, so we're going to say the answer to this one is D. Okay, the answer to that one's D. Okay, question 5. Question 5, we can expect the backside to be on the left. So but then it can't be D because of the vertical lines. Okay, we're going to say that it's asking to reflect in the x-axis. If that is the case, then the answer to question 5, it would be E, because of where the lighter side is, or where the top is, and also the horizontal lines, and also where the dark is. Okay. Next is question 6. So this one will have a right angle triangle at the top. So we can cross out A and E. And then it will have a circle at the bottom. So we cross out C. And then it will have lines going this way. So the answer will be D. Next is question 7. So this one we can expect it to not be D because the arrow will be facing this way to the left, and then the star, well, we can expect a triangle which is at all of them. We can expect the lines to be going this way, so we can cross out A and E. So now we're looking at the star, so the point of the star should be at the surface of the rectangle. So considering that, the answer will be B. So we'll just circle B. Okay. Question 8. So another reflection. So this one is going to have grey on the top side. The arrow will be pointing to the left. The triangle should be like this because it will be opposite. So it cannot be B, C because of the triangles. It cannot be D because of the arrow, and can't be E because of the direction of the arrow inside the triangle. So the answer to 8 will be A. Next is question 9. So we can expect this arrow to be pointing this way. So through that we can eliminate, well, we can eliminate B, E, and then looking at this circle, would expect it to be here. So we can cross out, well, D, and then in C it's too high, so the answer will be A. Next is question 10. So, the E has been cut off. Okay, so we can expect the oval to be on the right, which is present in all of them. Then we can expect the stop sign like shape to be like this. So we can cross out D. We could also then cross out, okay, so cross out D. And then looking at the star, we would expect, well, the very squished arrow to be pointing towards the left. So we can, so all of them are still eligible. So we can cross out C because of the white triangle here, or the parallelogram there. Then looking at the stripes, we can expect the stripes to be going towards the right. So we can cross out A. And then we're going to be looking at we will be looking I will be looking at the space in between, the very little space in between the surface of the oval and the arrow. So that is not in B, but it is in E. So the answer to question 10 will be E. Okay, 11. So A and B A and B is identical in this one. So these are the same. But then yeah, they are the same. Okay. Oh no, they aren't the same. They aren't the same. No. Okay, so for question 11, this will give us the answer of, well, we need the white shape, the L to be like this, so that could still be all of them. But then looking at the overlapping, it could not be A, or, yeah, it can't be A. Then this black part should be filled, so it can't be D. And then now Now we're looking at the white circle, which can't be filled, and this E doesn't have a white circle, so the answer will be B. Okay, now we need to have a triangle an arrow pointing this way at the top, so it can't be A. Next, for question 12, we're looking at this larger triangle arrow, so it will be pointing this way. So we can cross out C, we can cross out C. And then there is an arrow pointing downwards, so it cannot be E. And then the arrow should be double-headed. So the answer to 12 will be D. Okay. 13. So 13, well, A is just identical to the initial shape. B is too thick. C is just a different shape. E is incorrect because this line should not be straight, so it's not E. And then the answer is D. So 13 is D. Next, for 14, so we're expecting stripes to be going this way. And then that means it can't be C or D, or C or E. And then we're expecting the stripes on the inside to be going this way. So it cannot be A. And then between B and D, we're now looking at the arrow. So the arrow must be pointing to the left. So it cannot be D. And the answer to 14 will be B. Next, 15. So we're expecting an arrow pointing upwards and one down, so it's not A. The upwards one should be on the right and the down should be on the left, so it can't be E. Next, the arrow at the top should be pointing left, so it can't be B. And then the rhombus on the inside, or the trapezium on the inside, should have its surface like this, and the shorter side should be there. So it shouldn't be C. So our answer to question 15 is D. Okay, next is question 16.
So this is again on the video. This would have been question 16. Obviously on your booklet it's 84. Just quickly on this one, the reflection here, you can see the arrow should be pointing. It's pointing to the top left, meaning it's going to point to the top right in the reflection. Right, so these are all fine. This arrow is pointing to the left, so that means in the actual one it's going to be pointing to the right. Okay. Secondly, it's going to have to be striped, so we can cancel out E, not striped. You can see this sort of four-sided shape should sort of be slanting upwards to the right. Okay, again, remember when you're reflecting something, it's always going to be the opposite. So instead of being slanted upwards to the left, it's going to be upwards to the right. You can see A and B and D have this option, right? C is wrong because it's the wrong way. Now, the arrows, if I just rub this out, the stripes pointing like this, okay? Now, if you reflect that, it's going to point the opposite direction. I like to think of it as like if this is pointing towards the bottom left, this is going to be pointing towards the bottom right. Now look at which one of these are bottom right. This one is the wrong way, so we can cancel that out. And option D is also the wrong way. You can see it's pointing more down to the left. Okay, this one's the only one pointing to the right. So if you reflect just a few of these shapes in this object, you should be able to find the final answer. So the answer for this one is option A.
Next, for 17. So 17, we can expect the triangle to be on the right, so it can't be D. We can expect this line to be going this way, like that. So it cannot be E. And then 17, so the diamond is there. Okay, so the right angle triangle should be going this way. So we can rule out C. And then we're looking at the stripes on the triangle. So the stripes should be going this way. So it cannot be B. And the answer to 17 will be A.
So question 86, or what the video would have seen as question 18, we can go through and look at where this arrow is pointing. It's pointing to the top right, meaning when you reflect it, it's going to point to the top left. Okay, so it can only be option D or E, and you reflect these are symmetrical objects, so when you reflect them, nothing's going to change, but they should. You can see they're on the 1, 2, 3, third quadrant from the left. If you're going to reflect it, it's going to be a bit like this: 4, 3, 2, 1. Right, so you can see the third one. This quadrant right here should be right here: 4, 3, 2, 1. Meaning the circle should be the furthest away from the mirror line, because it's the furthest away from the mirror line on this side. Meaning the answer option is option E.
Okay, 19. So 19, we'll expect this triangle at the top to look like this. And then a line, and then there, and then there, then there, and then here, there, and then a semicircle. So now we have to just find that shape. So it will be on the left side, so it cannot be A, B, it cannot be D or E. So the answer to 19 will be C. Okay, now this one is just looking at, well, there's many shapes that will be reflected in this one. So for 20, the answer will be E. It's just reflecting many shapes, and you have to focus on each square at once, basically. And imagine if it's on the top left for the one, then it'll be on the top right for another, or for the reflected one. Okay, 21. So 21, we can expect it to be like the center arrow will be like this. So we can rule out D. And then the line arrow that goes through will be pointing this way towards the right, so it cannot be C. And then this arrow here will be pointing upwards, going out, so it will look like this. So we can rule out E. And then between A and B, it is this arrow, so it will be pointing this way. So we can cross out well, for option A. Okay, we can cross out. Well, this is the direction of the arrow of this one. So the arrow is pointing downwards, so the answer will be A. Okay, next. So 22, we have the downwards pointing arrow, so it can't be C or D. And then we have a large semicircle at the bottom, so it will not be A. And then the arrow will be pointed to the left, so it could still be B or E. But then for this line here, it will be pointing this way, or it will have this direction, this orientation direction. So the answer to 22 will be E. So that's reflection, and then 23. So this line here will be reflected to be pointing from the bottom left to top right. So it can still be all of them. The line sticking out should be going downwards, so we can rule out E. And then the line in the center should look like this. So we can rule out for 23A and D, and then the triangle at the top will look like this. So we can cross out C, and the answer to 23 will be B. Okay, that is reflection. Now we are looking at, so now this is comprehension. Okay.
So reflection is question 92. This is a straight line, meaning it's going to be a vertical reflection across this axis. So remember, when you reflect, you just have to look at what is the closest point to the mirror line. So it's this black corner, and that's going to be the opposite on this side. So we're going to have that same sort of angle, and we're going to have the black part of the sock on the left side. You can see that's option B. Question 93, again look at this angle, and that would be reflected the other way. C is the only one that has that. Question 94, the kettle is pointing outwards to the top left, meaning if it's reflected it's going to be pointing to the top right instead, and that's going to be option D. Question 95, again look at the points, so specific points. You can see this plug. First of all, it's pointing upwards, so it can't be, like, if it's pointing upward and it's reflected, it's still going to point upwards here. Okay, the only thing that's going to be different is if it's pointing, you can see it's sort of diagonally to the top right. It's also going to be sort of diagonally to the top right, a bit like A, okay? But let's cancel out option C, because that's, sorry, I meant to the top left. C and E is pointing down, and D is pointing there, and then you can see option A is a perfect reflection of the plug. So it's sort of to the top right, and this one's sort of to the top left. That's what happens when you reflect. Okay. The turtle is looking right, so he's going to look left in our reflection, which is option E. This one's upside down. And the key is down. Again, it's going to continue staying down. Imagine you reflect it. Okay. What's going to happen is, if you look at, again, the closest point to the mirror line is this sort of triangle thing right here. So what happens when you reflect that? Draw it on the other side, the other way, oppositely. So you can see it's going to be pointing left instead to the right. So that section, you can see it's going to be like this one right here. Hopefully you can see that. You can cancel out all the other options. That leaves you with option C.
The school musical. So when our teacher, Mrs. Dawson, announced that Year 6 was going to put on a musical, I did not think it was a good idea. I thought that because our class did not have many talented singers or dancers, our students would probably just laugh at us. Other students would probably just laugh at us. I was so sure that we would be embarrassed that I decided to participate by building props instead of being on the stage. I am happy to say, though, that I have been proven wrong. The recent musical, Singing in Summer, was a great show, filled with outstanding performances that the whole school enjoyed. Watching my classmates perform Singing in Summer was like watching a repertory company perform on a Broadway musical. Amy Bennett, Chris Watson, and Layla Toms sang their solos with passion and excitement. Amy especially hit all the right notes and had perfect pitch. Her voice was beautiful, and although I expected the vocal quality of the musical to drop when the rest of the class began to sing, everyone's voices blended together so well that the quality actually improved. Although I have known my classmates for years, I had no idea that so many of them had such excellent voices. While my ears enjoyed my classmates' songs, my eyes were amazed by the dancing skills I saw on stage. From an impressive kickline to a near-perfection rendition of the waltz, the Year 6 dancers could not go wrong. The performers' energy was so infectious that I wanted to jump on stage with them and start to dance. The surprising success of Singing Summers is a result of the wonderful talent and energy that our class brought to the stage. I hope that we put on another musical this year. It would bring even more joy to our school, and I would definitely not pass up the chance to perform on stage this time. So, as used in paragraph 1, what's the synonym for talented? So, the synonym for talented will be skilled. Okay, in paragraph 1, it can be understood that the author decided to participate in building props because he did not want to be embarrassed on stage. Okay, the author's reaction to seeing someone can be described as surprise because it was a success. In paragraph 2, the author writes, watching my classmates perform singing summer was like watching a repertory company perform a Broadway musical. Which of the following literary devices is used in this sentence? So A, a simile, B, foreshadowing, C, irony, or D, alliteration bar. This is simile because it's saying like watching a repertory company perform a Broadway musical. Okay, question 5. As used in paragraph 2, it can be understood that vocal relates to playing music on an instrument, singing or using the voice, dancing for an audience, or acting on stage. Well, this will be singing or using the voice. Okay, 6. Which of the following statements from the passage best supports the idea that the performance were good dancers? Well, from an impressive kickline to a near-perfect rendition of the waltz, these 6 dancers could not go wrong. A. 7. The author apparently believes that all of the following made Singing Summer a success except from exceptional props because that's not mentioned. Okay, so rugby, too dangerous to watch. The questions are covered here. So, okay. Well, I'll have to. Okay. Rugby, too dangerous to watch. Rugby is one of the most popular popular spectator sports. Most popular spectator sports in the United Kingdom. It is also extremely dangerous to play. The violent hits that rugby players endure on the field can cause concussions, paralysis, and even death. According to the scientific journal Neurology, rugby players are 3 to 4 times more likely to die from brain diseases than people who do not play rugby. Former rugby players are also less likely to suffer from severe mental illnesses such as depression, anxiety, and drug abuse problems. Because rugby is so dangerous to its players, it is morally wrong to watch it. Some people argue that there is nothing wrong with watching rugby because the players know what they are getting into. They are adults choosing to participate in a sport that is known to be dangerous. However, no professional rugby player begins his career as an adult. In fact, most start in secondary school as teenagers, not adults. It may be very difficult for these young men to see life outside of rugby, let alone make rational adult decisions about their careers. Other people argue that players are willingly trade their health for the money and fame that rugby might bring. They say most rugby players view this as a risk worth taking. However, there would not be any money or fame if people did not watch rugby. If no one showed up to the stadiums or bought the merchandise, there will be no reason for these young men to play. There will be no reason for them to sacrifice their physical and mental health, and sometimes their lives, for the sake of a sport. By supporting rugby, we are sending a message that is acceptable to the young men suffer grievous injuries simply for this I'll have to read from another screen, but just bear with me. Our own entertainment. The rules of the game must be changed to ensure both short-term and long-term safety of its players. Until this happens, we must all stop supporting such a brutal industry. Okay, so for this part, you can take out your own physical copy of the questions because they're covered by the whiteboard. So for question 1, this passage includes a quote from the journal Neurology in order to, well, 1, I'll just write this on the screen. 1 will be C. Show that rugby can cause serious medical problems. Okay. 2. So for 2, the question is, according to the first paragraph, rugby players can develop mental health problems. So this will be C. 3. So 3 is, what is the main argument of paragraph 2? So it's that because most rugby players start at a young age, they are not mature enough to decide whether playing is worth the risk. And we can see that in here. Paragraph 2, they say they start teenagers. So question 3 is A. Okay, next is question 4. So question 4, paragraph 3 argues that, well, since players get paid so much money to play, they are the ones who decide that it is worth it to take a risk injuring themselves. So 4 will be C. Okay, next is 5. So question 5. So this one, as used in the final paragraph, it can be understood that the word grievous belongs to which of the following word groups. So it's going to be serious, severe, and terrible. So, suffer serious injuries simply for, or like terrible injuries or severe injuries, so the answer will be A. Next, for question 6, which of the following sentences from the passage best explains the main idea of the passage? So it's going to be that until the rules of the game are changed to ensure both the short-term and long-term health and safety of its players, we must all stop supporting such a brutal injury. And this is what he's talking about in paragraph 4. So that's this section. By supporting it, is not good. And it also continues onto the other page. Next is question 7. So question 7, who is the intended audience of this passage? So A, rugby players, B, people who watch rugby, C, people who do not watch rugby, or D, doctors, nurses, and other health professionals. Well, this will be people who watch rugby, because it's saying that it shouldn't be supported, and that's why they're telling people that currently do watch rugby. So thank you very much for watching this summer school booklet. Okay, next is proofreading. So identify and correct spelling mistakes, if any. So prowess in sport is largely dependent on consistent practice. So this one is going to be practice. So practice should be spelled as Practice. So you should replace the S with a C. Next, Olympian athletes train religiously and with complete dedication. So complete is spelled incorrectly. So complete should be spelled as Complete. Next is question 3. So trainers of professional sportsmen and women measure their progress closely. So this one is measure. So measure should be spelled with an A. Then weight training and muscle building are significantly attaining proficiency. So this one is going to be weight. So the I and the E should be swapped and it should be spelled Weight. Okay, next is spelling errors again. So this one's a passage. Throughout the centuries, the city of York has evolved into a bustling centre of. This one is bustling. So bustling should be spelled as Bustling. And then of history and culture, visitors today can travel through time simply by strolling. This one, no mistakes in this one. And then 7, through the city's charming streets. One of York's most striking constructions is spelled incorrectly. It should be Constructions. constructions. So instead of an A, it should be replaced by an O. Is its cathedral? York Minster. The Minster dates back thousands of years, and this one is cathedral. So cathedral should be spelled without the E after the D. It's just cathedral. Okay, 9. Imposing architecture makes it an unmistakable part of the city's skyline. A steep. So this one will be architecture. So architecture is spelled Archict. Architecture. So it's spelled Arcitecture. I'll just run that out. URE. So architecture. Okay, next is architecture. Yeah. Okay. 10. A steep climb up the Minster's Tower offers unrivaled panoramic views over the city. While, so this one is panoramic. So panoramic should be spelled PANORAMIC. And then 11, while its museum describes the building's fascinating history and its impact upon the city. So this will be fascinating. So fascinating should be spelled FASCINATING. Okay, 12. The unusual behaviour of the monkey had piqued curiosity of the researchers. So this will be piqued or no, it's curiosity. So curiosity will be CURIOSITY. Curiosity. And then the winner of the lottery understandably wished to keep his identity concealed. So concealed is spelt wrong here. It should be CONCEALED. Next, foreign investment poured into the country following the successful election. This one is successful. So successful should be spelled with double C. So successful. Like that. Double C, double S. Okay, 15. Most of the bikers had used their vehicles to block access to the pedestrian area. So this will be access. So access should also be spelled with double C, double S. Access. Cool. Next, we move on to punctuation and capital letters. So, 1. I can't believe you're doing this. There are much better solutions to the problem, or to this problem. So, this one will be... full stop. Okay, full stop between this and there. Because there's a capital letter for there, so there's going to be a full stop. Okay, the rain cloud gradually covered the entire town, growing larger and larger. This one, there should be a comma after town rather than a semicolon. 3. I think this should have an apostrophe, rather not get involved in this dispute, as it doesn't concern her. 4. The boy's father, Edgar, was known in the village as an honest and upright citizen. This one is... Well, there should be a comma after Edgar. Okay, next is... I've made up my mind and you can't change it now, declared Paula. Well, there should be a full stop after now. Tom didn't win the race. Nevertheless, he was content with his performance. So this one has no mistakes for this one. 7. Bags of rice, sacks of potatoes and baskets of cauliflowers were transported to the town. Well, this one will be or town. Town shouldn't, actually no, in fact, just quickly looking at the last one, nevertheless should have a comma after it, and town should be a lowercase t. Okay, 8. The sun set over the banks of the river as the swallows chirped cheerfully. This one will be river should be in lowercase r. Okay. Next, we are looking at capital punctuation and capital letter errors in a passage. So, arrival gates. Arrival gates at the airport. She had been impatiently counting down the days. So this one will be a full stop after airport until his return for weeks. Her brother had been working in Australia. Well, Australia should have a capital A because it's a country. It's the name of a country. For the past 3 years, he was a teacher, and now he had finally come back home. 12 has no mistakes. Okay. 13. Even though you came home for a few days last Christmas, I feel like I haven't seen you in such a long time. This one will be comma after Christmas because you're breaking up the clauses. So I feel like I haven't seen you in such a long time. That one will be the speech marks and then the exclamation mark. So that should be swapped. Sis exclaimed, ushering him towards the door. She had organised a surprise homecoming party and everyone would be there. This one. This should be a comma, or a colon, because you are then listing. So family, friends, family, and old colleagues. She should have an apostrophe because it's saying could not. Wait to see how he would react. Okay, that is capital letters and punctuation. Okay, next is best word. So, I always something to do my best, despite the circumstances. So, I always fought to do my best. 2. Daniel something trying out his new bike when he fell and broke his wrist. So, Daniel was trying out his new bike. 3. The kit wasn't something, but they used it anyway. The kit wasn't theirs, but they used it anyway. 4. The pianist gave the something performance of her life. This will be greatest, the greatest performance of her life. 5. The producer something choose the cast for the play by the end of the day. The producer had to. The producer had to choose the cast for the play by the end of the day. Alright, 6. You have the opportunity something playing for the school netball team this year. This will be the opportunity of playing for the school netball team this year. Next, so it's something expected to attend practice after school on Fridays. You're expected. 8 and matches on Tuesdays, something you will be. So, and matches on Tuesdays. Otherwise, you will be dropped. You'll be dropped for a few weeks. You may only miss a session if you have a good reason and have a note from home and have brought a note from home. You must go to the changing rooms when the bell has rung. Clean kit must be worn and it should be washed at home. Please be careful, as last year some of the kit something, and you had to spend money buying new kit for the entire team. So this will be some of the kit shrank, and we had to spend a lot of money to buy new kit for the entire team. Okay, free video. I'll see you next time.
So this is our first poem comprehension, where instead of a text you're given a poem. Let's read through Winter Swans by Owen Shears in 1974. The clouds had given their all, 2 days of rain and then a break, in which we walked, the waterlogged earth gulping for breath at our feet, as we skirted the lake, silent and apart. Alright, what I like to do here is, because poems are a lot harder to understand than actual text, is I try and break it into paragraphs and make sure I'm understanding each section. So first of all, it's talking about the clouds, basically giving their all, so trying their hardest, giving first of all 2 days of rain and then stopping, right? So the clouds have rained for 2 days, right? And then they stopped, and then they went on a walk. The waterlogged earth, so the earth is or the ground is very filled with water, is gulping for breath at our feet as we skirted the lake, silent and apart. So basically what it's saying here is it's acting like the earth is gulping for air because it's under so much water, right? So that is the earth, right? The ground. Until swans came and stopped us. Obviously they're going around the lake, so swans came and stopped us with a show of tipping in unison. So swans have come to them. They're doing some sort of thing in unison, tipping in unison, as if rolling weights down their bodies to their heads. So this is a simile, obviously. It looks like that they're rolling weights down from their bodies, to their heads. So actually upwards, or probably something like this, right? You can imagine this swan. This is his head and his beak. They're probably doing something like this, bowing or tipping in unison, right? So they halved themselves in the dark water. Icebergs of white feather paused before returning again. Okay, so they halved themselves in dark water. That probably means something like they split 2 ways. The group halved is what I'm thinking. Icebergs of white feather paused before returning again, like boats righting in rough weather. So there's another simile here. So they paused as they're sort of separating before returning again, like boats righting in rough weather. So as if it's a boat in like a stormy lake, right? They mate for life, you said, as they left. Porcelain over the stilling water. I didn't reply, but as we moved on through the afternoon light. Okay, so someone is saying that they mate for life, and you're leaving. So this is actually you. Porcelain over the stilling water. I didn't reply, but we moved on through the afternoon light. So you carry on walking. This person doesn't reply, right? Slow stepping in the lakes, shingle and sand, I noticed our hands that had somehow swum the distance between us and folded one over the other. Okay. That hand somehow swum the distance between us. So our hands have swum the distance between us, right? Sorry. So this is the poet talking about him and probably a friend, right? So that your hands, right, they're swimming the distance between them. That's a metaphor. What that probably means, if there's a distance between 2 people, right, and your hands are swimming that distance, they're probably just, you're holding hands is another way of saying you're holding hands, just through a metaphor, right? And folded one over the other, so you can see that the hands are folding over each other, like a pair of wings settling after flight. Again, that's another simile. Sort of the reason they're using that simile is because they're talking about swans earlier. But basically, these 2 people are now holding hands and walking along the lake. Okay, questions. 130. What does the phrase, the clouds gave their all, suggest about the weather prior to the walk? It had been raining heavily, like we explained earlier, right? What is the meaning of waterlogged in the context of the poem? In my opinion, muddy and wet. You can see it was raining before, and if it's logged with water, then it's probably muddy and wet, and none of the other ones match. The comparison of swans to icebergs of white feather is an example of. Well, let's see where it does that comparison. So icebergs of white feather. Here it is. Icebergs of white feather. Paused before. So it doesn't say that they were like icebergs of white feather or as icebergs of white feather, right? It just called them icebergs of white feather. Obviously they aren't that, but when you do something like that, that's a metaphor, because you're not saying the swans were like icebergs of white feather. That would have been a simile. What it's saying is that they are, and obviously you're just metaphorically saying that, right? Question 133, the phrase like boats writing in rough weather employs which literary device? So you can see already here it's saying like. That means that it's a simile. If you're explaining what something looks like, and you're giving like a basically a description of something else, that's a simile. What is the overall tone of the poem? Some students can find this quite difficult to understand. Well, if we look at sort of what we've understood from the poem, these two people are walking. First of all, it starts off by saying it's raining, and then they go on a walk during this cloudy sort of day. The earth is muddy and wet, right? They're walking in silence and apart. Okay, so they're walking in silence. Imagine you and your friend are walking in silence and apart until the swans came and stopped us. Then you're sort of watching the swans. So these guys are watching the swans. They're sort of ensconced or like really enthralled by what they're looking at. And what happens after that is this person only says one line. So she says they mate for life, which you can look deeper into that as well. I don't think there is any need so far in this comprehension, but she says one line and you don't reply, and then you carry on walking, and then slowly you end up holding hands and continuing the walk. So it's very it's not joyful, is one way to put it. Reflective, I think, is already a good one. It's not exciting, definitely. They're not excited. It doesn't seem that tense, because you don't really notice any sort of tension rising, right? Nostalgic and reflective are what we are left with, and in my opinion, reflective is the best one here, because there is no sort of nostalgia that is insinuated in the poem. So nostalgia is when you're sort of looking back at memories and you're thinking, oh, that was a really good time. I remember that, right? I remember that time and I really feel nostalgic about that time. There is nothing in the poem that is sort of suggesting that. But these two people are walking along the river, silent and apart. They seem to be quite deep in their thoughts. So in my opinion, reflective is the best one here. How does the appearance of swans affect the couple? Well, it doesn't cause them to argue. We already went through that. Brings them closer together. It makes them feel sad. It causes them to laugh. Well, they don't laugh anywhere in the poem. It makes them leave the lake. Oh, I don't believe they leave the lake. You said as they left, so sorry. The swans were leaving, not you. But you carry on moving, and you slow stepping in the lake, shingle and sand. So they don't leave the lake, right? I think what this option is trying to say is that, yeah, it's trying to say that the couple left the lake, but they didn't, right? So you've got, it brings them closer together, or it makes them feel sad, right? Now, this is an interesting one. It's a quite difficult one to think about here. But if you think about, they spoke. Yeah, the other person said a word, said a sentence. You didn't reply, but you carried on walking. And by the end of that walk, you ended up holding hands. I think the best thing to say there is that it brought them closer. It didn't really make them feel sad, even though you could infer that. I think if you read in the context, it makes more sense to say B. 136, what is the significance of swans tipping in unison? So now, like we went through it earlier, what was the sort of motion that it meant, tipping in unison? Well, these guys are sort of bowing their heads and rolling weights down their bodies to their heads, is sort of like the image that you can see. In terms of the question, I believe it says, what is the significance? Well, let's read through some of the answers. It shows their playful nature. There's no real... nothing is showing us that the swans are very playful. They're sort of very relaxed and slow in their movements, and they're pausing, so I don't think they're very playful. Emphasizes their unity, that's interesting. Highlights their aggression, that's definitely not the case, because they have no aggression in this poem. It signifies their search for food. I think that's taking the inference too far. There's no real evidence that they're looking for food. It suggests their fear, not quite either. It doesn't really say that they're afraid of anything, right? So what we're left with here is B. It emphasizes their unity, which means they're sort of combined as one big group. Okay, question 187. What is suggested by the description of porcelain over the stilling water? So now you need to make sure you understand what porcelain is for this answer. So this is a picture of porcelain. You can see it's sort of this delicate type of pottery, and what it's saying, if we look at the actual context, where does it say porcelain over the stilling water, right? So what this is another metaphor for the swans. So the swans are the porcelain, and the water is obviously the lake. So as it is talking about that the swans are leaving their porcelain over the stilling water. So if we look down here, what does it suggest? Immediately I see that the swans are delicate and beautiful. That is a good one, because it's basically describing porcelain, or it's using porcelain to describe them as delicate and beautiful, because that's what porcelain is meant to be, right? Let's look at the other options. The water is turbulent. That doesn't make much sense. The swans are about to fly away. They are about to fly away, but this isn't what this sentence is saying. The water is freezing. There's no inference of that. And the swans are breaking apart. Again, that's not part of this. The reason why it's describing the swans as porcelain through this metaphor is to basically get across the idea of porcelain. The idea of porcelain is that it's delicate and beautiful, and the swans are also the same. Okay, question 138. Why does the poet depict the couple's relationship at the beginning? Or how does the poet depict the couple's relationship at the beginning of the poem? In my opinion, we went through earlier in this poem. First of all, it starts off quite gloomy, raining, silent and apart, right? So they're walking apart, and then at the end it ends up with them holding hands. So deeply in love is a good description for the end of the poem, but not the beginning. They're distant and silent, I think, is immediately a good option. They're excited and happy. Again, this is not a very exciting poem. It's not angry, and they're not indifferent to each other, so this is the best option here. Let's keep going. 139. Why does the phrase "swum the distance between us" imply about the couple's relationship? They're growing apart. Well, not quite. If their hands are coming closer to each other, then they're not growing apart. They're moving quickly. That's not quite it. They're ignoring each other. Well, not quite. If they're holding hands, they're probably not ignoring each other. They're making a difficult decision. There is no evidence that is saying that is what they're doing. They're reconciling. Well, that basically means sort of, let's say after an argument you reconcile with someone, you end up sort of forgiving them and getting closer again, which is probably what's happening here. 140. What effect does the use of direct speech, "they mate for life," you said, have in the poem? I think this bracket is a bit of a mistake there. It should be a quotation mark, but that is no problem. What effect does the direct speech, "they mate for life," have in the poem? So yeah, like I said earlier, you could look deeper into this phrase right here where it says "they mate for life," and I didn't go into it because there was no question on it, but we can go into it now. Well, this whole story is about a couple who is, first of all, it seems like they're distant to each other, or silent and apart, right, at the start. Maybe they've had like some sort of argument, or they're quite upset with each other, right? And what happens is, as they're going on this walk in silence, I believe it's the wife, I can assume something like that, right? The counterpart of the couple has said this phrase that's basically describing these swans and saying they mate for life. So she's saying that the swans will always stick together with their couple, right? They'll never leave. And the significance of that is obviously towards their own relationship, right? So their relationship is bad at the moment, or not that great, and this person is talking about how the swans will stick with each other for their whole life. It's probably sort of signifying how these two people should also stick together for the whole life. So let's see what the options say. What does the effect? So it creates a formal tone, not quite. A formal tone would be more professional, right? It distances the reader from the events, not really. It makes the moment more intimate and personal. I do agree with that. It doesn't introduce a new character, and it doesn't add any sort of urgency. So what it's doing here again is she's talking about the swans and how they stay together forever, and really, they mate for life, right? They don't have these sort of divorces and stuff like that. By doing that, as a proxy, she's describing sort of their own relationship and what she wants to see there. So it makes it more intimate and personal. Hopefully that makes sense. 141. Why does the poet describe their hands as folded one over the other, like a pair of wings settling for flight? So again, I think I went over this at the start, and I sort of assumed there might be a question on this. The reason why they were talking about wings settling, well, the whole poem was using loads of metaphors and showing the swans, right? How the swans are really close to each other, to describe why the humans in this poem should also be close to each other, right? So again, it's not to show their excitement, it's not to suggest that they're ready to leave, they're not really confused or anything like that. To highlight their weariness, well, weariness means tiredness, so I can see why someone might infer that, but I think B is the best option here, to emphasize their unity and reconciliation. So first of all, the hands folded over one another like a pair of wings settling after flight. So the swans throughout the whole poem have been shown to be united and always reconciled, right? And now what they're doing is the humans are holding their hands in a similar way like swans, right? Like a pair of wings settling after flight. So it's emphasizing their unity and reconciliation. Okay, final question. What can be inferred about the relationship between the couple by the end of the poem? They have resolved their differences. They have decided to separate. They definitely haven't decided to separate. If they're holding hands, they remain holding distance. That's not true. They're unsure about their future, and they're angry with each other. You can see all of these options are very like the couple being very upset, whereas this one is the only one that makes the most sense. So that is the end of Summer Booklet 3. Hopefully that was helpful.